What is the difference between the Confiscation Act of 1861 and later acts? Have you ever wondered how the laws during the American Civil War evolved to address the issue of slavery? One key piece of legislation is the Confiscation Act of 1861. This act was a significant step taken by the United States Congress during the conflict. It allowed the Union military to seize property, including slaves, that supported the Confederate war effort. This was one of the first times the Union government took action regarding slavery in the context of the war. The 1861 Act had specific features. It authorized the confiscation of property used by Confederates, including slaves who were forced to work for the Confederate Army. It declared that these slaves could be considered contraband, which meant they were effectively freed from their owner's control. However, it did not free all slaves. It only targeted those directly involved in the war effort. As the war progressed, later acts expanded upon the principles of the 1861 Act. The Second Confiscation Act of 1860 took things further. This act broadened the definition of confiscable property. It included all property owned by individuals who supported the rebellion, not just property used in the war. It also explicitly freed slaves owned by Confederate sympathizers. Then came the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, issued by President Abraham Lincoln. This proclamation declared that all slaves in Confederate territory were to be free. However, it did not apply to border states or areas already under Union control. This was a more direct approach to ending slavery throughout the Confederacy. The differences between these acts are notable. The later acts had a more profound impact on slavery. They shifted the Union's strategy from merely confiscating property to actively undermining the Confederate economy and social structure. The progression from the Confiscation Act of 1861 to the later acts shows a clear evolution in the Union's approach to slavery and the war. In summary, the Confiscation Act of 1861 was the starting point for addressing slavery during the American Civil War. Later acts built upon this foundation, expanding the scope of confiscation and emancipation. This shift reflected a growing commitment to dismantling the institution of slavery in the United States.